post.
The prospect of a local Olympics is sending a thrill through this Brisbane gymnasium.
It would be very exciting. Home crowd would just be amazing. Like, I'd never experienced anything like that.
A 2032 Summer Olympics in southeast Queensland would see this centre replaced by a new 10,000-seat venue. Does Brisbane really need a gymnastics centre with 10,000 seats?
I think there's some opportunities there to look at the design of the facility and how we can ensure that it can cater for the games, but also post that, the legacy.
And that's the new Olympic buzzword, legacy. Acknowledging the excesses and cost blowouts of past games, the International Olympic Committee is placing a new emphasis on sustainability and even moderation. Why will this time be different?
It's a completely different situation, effectively bringing down the cost of hosting the games, allowing existing venues to be used.
But even a modest Olympics carries risks.
Benefits are not distributed equally, and I think that if the government could say this, actually there will be winners and losers out of this event. I think businesses and other elements in the community would be much more understanding.
The last Summer Olympics held in Australia was also the cheapest in decades. While the final cost of the Sydney Games was just under $7 billion, the costs more than doubled for Athens and topped a massive $45 billion for Beijing, before hovering around the $20 billion mark for the past two games. The South East Queensland Bidding Committee reckons they can now deliver the games for less than a quarter of this cost.
Because we're not building everything brand new and shiny, because we're not in this very expensive bidding process, because we're spreading it over an entire region rather than just having it concentrated in one city, all in one small area, those factors mean it is a different type of Olympics that we're talking about.
Adrian Schrinner is the Lord Mayor of Brisbane and a member of the Olympic Bid Committee. He says 80% of the proposed venues for the 2032 South East Queensland Games are already built, although some will need expanding.
So there is that gap that needs to be filled, but that is a relatively small gap in the scheme of things.
Now, if this sounds familiar, you're right. A similar philosophy was used for the 2018 Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast, which organisers claim created $1 billion bonanza. But that economic legacy today is still hotly contested. When did you first get an inkling that things weren't going to quite go to plan?
Day one, day two, and then day three, it's like, okay, it's not really happening.
Carlo Pacucco now manages a cafe and convention centre on the Gold Coast hinterland. He was forced to shut down his Italian restaurant in the city last year during the COVID-19 pandemic. But he says much of the damage was inflicted 2 years earlier by the Commonwealth Games.
Too many people left the city, number one, so it emptied out, so it became a ghost town, and then planes coming in were empty. So no one came in.
We sent out surveys all over the Gold Coast, and what we found was that it was actually fairly consistent. Businesses all over the Gold Coast were negatively impacted.
Oh, look, there's some very big lessons to be learned from that, where a lot of people thought, well, I'm going to leave the Gold Coast while this big event is happening because there'll be disruption. That's not the intent here. We actually want people in South East Queensland to be part of the Games.
But the economic benefits of even the best-run mega sporting events are questionable, according to US economist Andrew Zimbalist.
The study was done out of Oxford University in England that found that the average cost overruns since 1980 in the Summer Olympics was 250%. So we're not talking about small potatoes here. This is a major unanticipated expense that often comes upon a city.
So will South East Queensland, with its reliance on established venues, avoid these pitfalls? Professor Zimbalist says the devil is in the detail.
the venues are all over the place. You have to build connecting transportation. Whether you end up doing that in ways that are beneficial to the city's needs or they're just beneficial to the need to connect venues is an important question.
今まで当たり前だと思っていた未来は一夜にして別世界のように変わる。それは
The world's attention will soon turn to the Tokyo Olympics, an extraordinary loss-making event in the midst of a lingering pandemic. But the Queensland 2032 bidding committee argues the risks in hosting the Olympics are outweighed by the benefits.
And if we get the Games, there will be a 10-year, a decade-long confidence boost for our region, and then that will have a long tail as well.
Don't be pig-headed that the Games themselves have got enough strength to bring us a huge economy to Queensland. It won't. It'll bring the name. Then it's up to us to make it.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.